scenario, crowded in one place. They scratch each other, they claw each other, they shit gets all over the place. They get infections, bacteria, then sometimes they're eating. It's like all these things that happen. Then you bring these products to us in a grocery store. Of course, it's gonna have an impact, right? Yo, thanks for locking in and welcome to Jyim Life. You are rocking out with Jyima, certified holistic health coach, certified personal trainer, and co-founder of the gym downtown Los Angeles. Today, we're going to be talking about a documentary that I just watched called You Are What You Eat on Netflix. Really enjoyed the documentary, and from what I saw, it was pretty objective, which is kind of hard to find nowadays. Let's vibe out. One of the cool things I like about chopping it up with y'all is that if I didn't get a chance to do my workout for the day, as I record, I get to do my workout. So today I got two 30-pound dumbbells, and we're gonna go through a full body circuit, which I always tend to do during my circuits. We're gonna do some lunge curls, do some squat presses, some push-ups, and some reverse flies with the dumbbells. The thing that I always have an issue with, getting back to the documentaries now, the thing that I always have an issue with documentaries or health professionals in general is having a predetermined outcome anytime you start interpreting data or you do your study or whatever you're trying to figure out, right? It's very seldom, let's get the quads next, it's very seldom that I see a documentary and can see that it's truly objective. Let's define what objective is. Some of these vegan documentaries that promote plant-based diets, granted, a lot of them, and I'm not going to name them out, but a lot of them have some very good information, but their conclusion was all predetermined. I honestly believe a true study, a true objective study is one that doesn't have a conclusion before you start. So if I set out to say that a plant-based diet is the most health conscious, most optimal way for you to have a healthy life and maximize your overall health, if I've determined that before I've done the study, every bit of data I get is going to be compromised and it's going to be biased, all right? So the thing you always want to look for anytime you're watching these documentaries is the conclusion already predetermined. Next, we're going to reach down for the hamstrings. I remember watching this documentary that was promoting a plant-based diet, and what they did is, and this is the thing though, you're dealing with scientists, you're dealing with doctors, you're dealing with people that are in this field, so they have a pretty good idea of what they're doing. And one of these documentaries that I saw promoting a plant-based diet, they wouldn't even make sure that they were very conscious about where they were sourcing the meat products, okay? So there is a big difference on animal products, where if I'm getting my beef, if it's grass-fed, or if it's industrialized cows, where they're feeding them a bunch of food that's processed, and they're packing them in these areas where they're shitting and pissing on themselves, and all these things that could compromise the quality of the beef is what they're experiencing. And then we can get flies, open the chest up. If all this is happening, and then you're going to get the best plants in the world, right? You're going to get the best cucumber, the best spinach, the best kale, and you're going with low quality meat. You know what you're doing. Like, don't even waste your time and listen to documentaries that do that. Now, with this one that I really enjoyed is that they were very conscious about where they source their animal products. Which I'm going to get to the conclusion or some of the things that I found out as far as the data. Matter of fact, let me start there before I even dive a little bit deeper into it. So they got twins. They got a group of twins to come together. So let me give you a little bit on the documentary. They got a group of twins to come together, and with these twins, they gave one an omnivore diet and they gave the other one a plant-based vegan diet. Okay, so one meat-based diet where they're having mainly animal products, whether it's eggs, chicken, beef, along with vegetables, and then having other ones on a vegan diet. Okay, so they have these two different approaches that they're doing with twins, and they're trying to take away the argument or the separation of like DNA and genetic predispositions for whatever you could think of, right? So they get twins because they figure out that they have the closest DNA match, right? So now, I love that because like, I'm okay, they're trying to take away as many variables as possible, which happens anytime you do these documentaries, which you also need to remember is very seldom that one is entirely objective because there's so many variables and biases and people not performing the diet the way that they said to, all that there. So one thing that I liked when they concluded the case study with the twins, the ones that were on a vegan diet collectively now had lower LDL, that's bad cholesterol. They had lower levels of LDL. They had lower inflammation. They also lost more visceral fat, which is the fat that is located in and around around the organs that can cause chronic illnesses, right? So visceral fat lowered, and this is collectively through these twins. We're gonna go to a lunge curl. So we're down, up, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so think bad cholesterol on a plant-based diet, lower. Inflammation, lower. Visceral fat, lower. These are all the things that decrease when they're on a plant-based diet. What I enjoy is that they also show some of the benefits of being on a meat-based diet, animal product-based diet, which is where you get most of your protein. Okay. 2, and 1. So today when I do my squats, you'll see I have 2 plates here because I've been able to get a lot of my ankle mobility training the way I want to. So this helps out. We're gonna squat press for 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, twins, animal product, vegetable-based diet, vegan-based diet. Vegan-based diet, they're finding out lower LDL, lower inflammation, lower visceral fat. Even they found out because they did sexual arousal testing, sexual arousal, that was even higher on the plant-based diet than people based on the meat-based diet, which I thought was very interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now here comes the switch between this and other propaganda documentaries where they're just trying to switch over to plant-based diets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Biggest difference that I saw was that they showed the benefits of being on a diet that consisted of meat and animal products, which is they collectively put on more lean muscle than the plant-based diet, which is something that when people talk about switching over to plant-based diets, they kind of say you can get your protein from plant-based products, which you can. And there's a difference between proteins and complete proteins. Complete proteins have all the essential amino acids, which are important in muscle recovery and building muscle because as you see right now here while I'm lifting, I'm really breaking down muscle tissue. And in order for my muscles to recover and develop and grow and for me to increase lean muscle mass, I have to get my complete protein, my essential amino acids to aid in that recovery. Now, are there some plant products that are complete proteins? Yes, but there's an asterisk near that, which means that can you consider them a source of protein if they only have a certain amount of grams of protein? If we're saying on the low end, we want 0.8 grams per pound, okay, of protein. That's on the low end, all the way up to, some people suggest 1.6 grams per pound of body weight. So it ranges. But if you need that much, let's say let's just say 1 pound to keep the math simple, and you weigh 150 pounds. So that means they're saying, all right, well, let's say we get half of that. Let's say half a gram. Pardon me. Let's say we want half of that, okay? So let's say you weigh 150 pounds. Let's say we want to get 75 grams of protein, okay? We want to get 75 grams of protein because you weigh 150 pounds. It is very difficult, even if you're getting the very minimal amount of plant-based foods, very minimal amount that are complete proteins. It is next to impossible for you to get enough with those to get 75 grams of protein in a day. For example, let's say quinoa, okay? Quinoa, when you consume quinoa, you're also getting a large amount of carbohydrates. So if you do that, and then plus you have sweet potatoes, and then you have your grain in there, now you're getting an excessive amount of carbohydrates. So I'm saying all of that to say that there is no more efficient way. There's no more efficient way to get your complete proteins, which are essential for building your muscles after you work out and increasing muscle mass, than getting them through animal products. Can you get it through plant-based products? Yes, but it's much more difficult, much more challenging, and in some ways not even realistic, okay? So what I liked in this study is that the one variable that the people who were allowed to have animal products, where you could see they benefited, is their lean muscle increased in a way that people on a plant-based diet were not able to do, all right? We're back to the circuit, lunch curl. I really suggest people watch this because they went over your biological age versus your real age or your chronological age, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they went over biological age, they went over cholesterol, they even went over cognitive function, which cognitive function also increased on a plant-based diet. So yes, I mean, when you go through most of the studies, a plant-based diet is going to improve most measures of your health and your wellness. But that doesn't take away the issue that vegans may have with building muscle. And then you hear all the vegans say, I'm vegan and I build muscle, I'm vegan. Yeah, but tell me you did that without taking supplements. Okay, that's very different. Because chances are, and I would be willing to bet that any vegan, this is very important to listen to, that any vegan that their goal is to build lean, strong muscle, they have to take some kind of supplement. Some kind of supplement, okay? So if you're consuming animal products, you won't have to take that supplement. Is taking a supplement bad or good? It's up to you. If you find a good, clean one, right? Squats. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, yes, you can get protein from a plant-based diet. Is it enough to build muscle? No, it's not. Can you get it through supplements, combining the right plant-based food items? Yes. Is it much more challenging? Yes. So let's be realistic. So now you may ask, well, what's the answer if this is the case? Okay, I've checked the box on every other measure of health and wellness, but I want to build muscle, which helps to burn fat and also increases your health, right? We get 10. So what's the answer? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm always going to tell you the answer depends. always on your lifestyle. For me, I'm my number, every time I tell this story, my number changes, but you get the gist of it. I am, let's say, 60, 70% plant-based, 30% animal products. Meaning, let's say Monday through Thursday, I'm not touching any eggs, any chicken, any steak, any fish. I'm not touching any of that, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will. So now what I found is that works for me in helping me build muscle mass, but then also it doesn't impact my blood work as well. Because we always have to remember that most of these studies are done excessively to highlight the benefits or disadvantages of that particular macronutrient. Let me try and say it a little more simple, meaning that if I'm doing a study to figure out the positive or negative impact of carbohydrates, I'm gonna have the person, okay, you eat carbohydrates for 7 days straight, and let me see what the impact is. Or 8 weeks straight, you have carbohydrates this month. But in reality is, you can just cut it down and wouldn't have that same result. So they did this study over 8 weeks on you are what you eat. They did a study over 8 weeks, and they had one twin. Let me get 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me tell you my favorite part, though. My favorite part is one of the twins. She was on the vegan diet, and they're chefs. They have their own restaurant, and they're back there preparing food. And the other twin is one that's able to have meat, and the one who's on a plant-based diet says, well, I need to be able to taste the meat. She's like, no, don't do it, because then you're gonna break the diet. She's like, make sure you don't do it. She's like, I have to do it. So then she goes and she eats the steak. I think it was a piece of steak. She eats that anyways. And I'm like, you just compromise the study. You just compromise the study by doing that, which always brings me back to, we're never fully conscious, because you probably fast forward that 2 or 3 weeks. If there's not cameras there, she's not gonna remember that she did that, because that was done almost subconsciously, because she always tastes the food whenever she eats. So we always have to remember, in order to truly determine the impact of whatever diet approach we want to take, we have to make sure we're consistent in and we're fully aware of what we're taking or what we're consuming, right? So that was something I thought was super funny. Also, I love the fact that they went into cognitive function. They went into sexual arousal, your overall sexual health. They went into your blood work, because we have to remember, that's why I love, and most documentaries will do that, they'll use different variables to measure, is that we have to remember how strong you are in the gym, how fit you are is only part of the measurement that we want to use. If let's say your body fat is low, you're in great shape, but you have high cholesterol, cognitive function is low, that's gonna essentially start to impact your working out. So you can't necessarily consider yourself healthy. So you have to ask yourself what you're measuring. Go back here. Also conducive to whatever is most conducive to what kind of training you're doing. But so now they grab these twins. I don't want to tell you too much about it, because I really want you to go and watch this one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One thing I didn't know when I watched this, and I had an idea of how our beef and our chicken and our fish, let's say beef, chicken, fish, because to me those are some of the more primary places that we get our meat sources. I really didn't know how bad it was and how loose the regulations are and what they describe to you. So for example, in the documentary, one of the guys who owned a chicken farm, one thing we always hear, you want to get free range chicken. And the reason why you want to get free range chicken, and pardon me if hold on a second. 2 more. 2 and 1 is, so let's go into this part, which I thought was super dope, which they included in the documentary, is what the hell these labels read. So these companies aren't stupid. They know we're becoming more conscious. These companies are not stupid. They know we're becoming more conscious, so they play with the descriptions in the labels to make us believe that they're being health conscious when they're not. It's crazy. For example,
and this was in a documentary, free-range chicken. He was like, all that means is the chickens just have this much more space to roam, which doesn't decrease all the issues that come from having all these chickens crowded in this small place. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. I think, this is another big one. I want to say the number is 25% is allowed that's the percentage of chicken that's allowed to have salmonella. Okay, so now you ask yourself, well, what does it matter if the chickens are free-range chickens or not free-range chickens? When you have a bunch of animals, chickens specifically in this scenario, crowded in one place, they scratch each other, they claw each other, they shit gets all over the place, they get infections, bacteria, then they're eating. It's like all these things that happen. Then you bring these products to us in a grocery store. Of course, it's gonna have an impact, right? We get 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So that's one thing I thought was real cool, is that you have to even be more conscious when you're reading and figuring out what places is, which is why I always suggest just finding a store or brand that you trust and sticking with it, because then you know whatever they produce, you can rock out with that. You can vibe with it, and you're good. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One thing they did leave out, even though I enjoyed the documentary, one thing they did leave out, which I wish people would dive into more, is that the same way all animal products aren't created equal, all vegetables aren't created equal in the way that and how they're sourced as well. So now when we're talking about fruits and vegetables, kale, spinach, apples, whatever it is, there could be pesticides, all other kind of things that could be wrong with these plant-based products that they didn't go over with. So we have to remember, yes, it's important about which kind of macronutrient that you're consuming, or what kind of food, or what kind of diet. But yes, that's important. But it's also important to remember that none of them are created equal. And we have to remember where all of them are being sourced or how they're being produced, right? It's very, very, very important. Now, going back to that. So the chickens, they had this guy in there. What I truly enjoy is watching professionals, especially in the health and wellness industry, that like really care about their profession, all right? I got my Scully on today, by the way. I'm in LA and I moved here from Massachusetts, and some of my friends tell me I got soft when it comes to the cold, but really, I feel like your skin and your blood and your tolerance just changes when you move from the East Coast to the West Coast. It changes. I can't take the cold as much as I used to, so I'm a little chilly today. This helped me warm up. So going back, what I truly love is that these wellness professionals, and you could tell with this guy who owned the chicken farm, like he cared. He cared. Let me tell you something. If you have a professional that's in medicine, wellness, and they have all the certifications, all the degrees, every bit of information you could think of they have, but they don't care, you're better off taking somebody with half the credentials but cares. And listen why. This is very important. Because the one with more credentials, the information they give you may or may not be true, just because they're, one, not going to take the time to figure out if it applies to you, and then two, they don't care enough to do any more research because they feel like they have it all. Meanwhile, this one, you know, everything they say is going to have a level of legitimacy because they care. One interesting part on this, it was the mayor of New York. This is such a cool part they had in it. So he says he wakes up one morning, and when he wakes up, he can't see. And he said, by the time the afternoon comes, I figure it's just morning time, my vision should come back and I'll be fine. He's like, finds out, doesn't happen. Then he starts to feel tingling in his fingers and his feet and everything. Goes to the doctor. The doctor tells him he has type 2 diabetes. Either he has type 2 diabetes or he's on the way to get it. Let's just say he has type 2 diabetes, or he's very close to having it. So he said by the time he leaves the doctor, they prescribe him so much medication he can't even remember. Pharmaceutical drugs, okay? They prescribe this to him and they give him a pamphlet. The pamphlet says living with type 2 diabetes. Remember that part, it's important. I knew enough to remember, so just in case you watch, remember that part. So the pamphlet says living with type 2 diabetes. He said he walks out of there and he says, you know what? I don't want to accept this particular outcome. So he Googles how to reverse diabetes, okay? One pamphlet says living with type 2 diabetes. He decides to look up how to reverse diabetes. He finds, of course, which we know, diet, whole foods, staying away from processed foods, exercising, all these things that he implements. He leaves all the medications in his cabinet, doesn't even touch them. Goes, gets his blood sugar tested. And of course it's over time. They say, wow, the medication he said, seems like the medication is really working. He looks at it and says, I haven't even been taking it. The doctor then goes and does their research and says, wow, I didn't even know. Moral of the story, never to shit on doctors. Let me get my 10 squat press. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So, moral of the story, not to shit on doctors, is that, well, one, they don't get educated in nutrition, right? They don't get educated in nutrition as far as it being a remedy or something that can help. So, it's not their fault. So, reverse, the doctor's like, oh, I didn't even know this. That small thing alone lets you know that the same way he was able to reverse it also means chances are that's where it came from, was from his diet. Because if you walk in, you can't see one day, you're getting told you have type 2 diabetes, you're having tingling in your fingers and your feet, and they're telling you may have to get part of your limbs amputated. Then you change your diet, and all that regresses and changes. Changes are, we could point that out as the one key variable, is diet. So I encourage you to watch these documentaries and see these things just to see how important this is. Push-ups. One thing that came up as well that I love that came up is here at the gym we have a 3D body scanner. And a 3D body scanner measures the person's weight, the person's body fat, the person's lean mass, bone density, water retention, all that shit is what it measures. And a lot of times we're misguided to think that weight is the key variable that we want to take a look at as an indicator of where we are as far as how healthy we are as we go, as far as where our goals are. But fat is much more of a key determinant, right? Where your overall body fat percentages is what you want to pay attention to, because as that lowers, then lean muscle mass could increase, visceral fat could decrease. Remember, visceral fat is around the organs, which is responsible for a lot of chronic illnesses. So these are things you want to pay attention to. And all these things are very much preventable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All these things are preventable. So they go over these measurements, and what I liked was, so the key ones they had was the person's weight was first, then they checked out their fat mass, then they checked out their lean muscle mass. So those are like the 3 key things they looked at. And some people would lose weight, but then they would see that they lost weight from the muscle mass. This is what you don't want, because eventually, and muscle is very responsible for your metabolism. And I see this so much. So I love the fact that they dived into this. This happens a lot when I'm doing body scans with people who go on these crash diets. When you go on a crash diet, you could weigh however many pounds. You could lose 10 pounds
And if of that 10 pounds, 8 was muscle mass, that's when you have those plateaus where it's tough to lose any more weight because you killed off what was responsible for you burning fat, right? So lean muscle mass, the more you have, the higher your metabolism goes, right? Your BMR, your base metabolic rate. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, you'll continue to burn. So it's very important that you don't look at just the weight. And they do a really good job of showing the different measurements and different indicators as to whether or not you're losing fat mass or you're losing lean muscle mass. What was also very important, that was the other thing I wanted to get to, was, so I told you where the chicken was sourced, and then now where the beef is sourced, right? So what I didn't know was that you have these cattle that are in big open areas, they have room to breathe, places to go to the bathroom, they eat grass, grass-fed beef. And then you have industrialized ones where I don't know what they were feeding these things. And these cows didn't even look like cows. I'm looking at this, I'm like, every time I watch these things, I don't want to go near a burger for like a couple weeks. I always end up going back, but it takes me a while. And you see the way that these cows are treated in this area versus with the way when they have the open place to roam and they're fed grass, all these things. And then you have the fish, wild fish versus farm fish. Wild fish versus farm fish. Farm fish are kept in this like size of a football field, almost like cage. And the way that they catch those fish, like it first of all, it kills off a lot of the regular fish that are out in the wild. But then those fish that are in there, you can just see like the cuts and the lacerations and the bacteria. It's all being built. And then they're not even the right color. They're not even the same color as the natural organic fish. And they put dye in it so that it looks like the regular fish, which goes back to what they were saying before. What I was saying before about like the labels. Like these companies are not stupid. So you know that what you're giving us, or they say it's an indication of like, shoppers, which us being educated, we're saying we don't want to get this. So they know this, so they dye the fish to trick us? Like, it was crazy to me. So in conclusion, if you get a chance, I recommend watching it. And if you watch any other documentary, watch when they're comparing animal products to a plant-based diet, make sure they highlight where those food items are being sourced. If the documentary does not let you know that they're comparing two food choices that are sourced from reputable, considerate places, I don't care how smart these people are. It's biased and it's trying to lead you to a certain direction and doesn't have your overall health in consideration. This one I like because they did that. They took their time and you saw the benefits of having a diet with animal products versus having a diet that's all plant-based. My review, overall I liked it. I'll be checking some more out. Get back to you. Jyim Life. Yeah.